Hello. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you need to do this week, this coming week, when you're not in school every day and when we're doing a field trip and then we're having a special day on Thursday and Friday. You still have to work on the days you're at home because you're still going to school and this is considered a full week. So, the first thing I wanted to do was just tell you to keep studying the Quizlet that we started in class about suspense terms. You really should be spending about 20 minutes on Quizlet each day for at least 2 or 3 days. So you get to know those terms. And I would do flashcards, I would do learn, and then I would do matching. But that's up to you. And, try to beat my time of 11.2 seconds. I dare you. Okay. And then when you're done that, you do have some time on IXL using commas in a series. We haven't had our commas in a series test yet because I wanted to give you some time to practice on IXL. Please remember the Oxford comma, which always comes before the and or, that coordinating conjunction at the end of a list. So there's that. You also have your final draft that you created after having a peer review from another student, and you'll find that in my classroom. So let's just go to my classroom right now and we'll take a moment to look at that. We're in my classroom, grade 7 English, and this right here is where you will pass in your scary story, the scary introduction. So you'll find it right there, and for you, you'll just click pass in, and that's where you'll do it. So pass in your spooky, scary beginning here, and that should be a Google Doc that you've created, and it has your updated final draft. And I'm gonna grade that. I'm gonna grade that as soon as I get it. And so thank you, that's where it goes. The next thing I want to talk to you about, obviously you have some IXL work here to do, but I wanted to talk to you more about how to do this writing to a picture. So writing to a picture for me is one of my favorite writing assignments. Sometimes when I want to get inspired as a writer, the thing that I like to do is look at something for a while and let the visual fill my mind. They used to say that a picture paints 1,000 words. That comes to us from a long, long ago. And art is supposed to inspire ideas and thoughts in your head. And so when you look at something, you're supposed to be making some ideas in your head kind of mesh together and give it a setting and give it characters and have something happen. So the thing you have is you do have something called writing to a picture. On the iPad, if you click on that, it won't work. It'll say unsupported file type unless you click on the little arrow at the very top right-hand corner, and that will take you to your Google Drive, and then you can view all these really cool pictures. Now, there are some copies here that are multiple copies, so I'll get rid of those. But basically, you can see there's all kinds of copies of pictures for you to look at. These come from long, long ago. They're all black and white. They're all very different, and every one of them tells a story. So what you're supposed to do is look at them for a while and then see if any of them begin to tell a story in your mind. So the last thing we wrote was just an introduction, but this time I want you to write the story itself, the exposition, all the way up to the climax, and you don't have to write anything after that, because what we're trying to do is kind of do bits and pieces of stories before we do our final suspense story. These don't have to be suspense related, but they could be. Suspense doesn't always have to be scary. I mean, this could be suspense. Maybe this guy who's trying to hit this ball, maybe he hasn't had a really good year. And maybe when he looks at that and he's had a build up, maybe what's happened is, he struck out 3 or 4 times and his coach really doesn't want to put him into play, but he's the last guy and the game is in a tie and he's the last one who can push that game over and win it for his team. So maybe there's that. Maybe and you look at him, maybe this is him at another time. I don't know. This one looks pretty sad. What happened to this poor guy? And what about these two people on the beach and this old man walking up toward them? There's got to be something there. So the instructions for this are really interesting. I'll show you what they are, and I even wrote an example for you. So that's where I'm going now for your homework. Here are the instructions. You're going to be focusing on the characters this time. So the first thing I've done is given you a organizer. You can use that organizer. I would, give the character no more than 3, maybe there's just 1. Give them a name. Come up with a cool name. Just give them a first name. You don't have to have a last name. And then a setting, and that would be time, place, and environment. And the picture should dedicate or should tell you that. The picture should dictate that. And then what's happening? This is the big thing. What's happening in that picture? So that's another thing you have to consider. And then I just put a couple of other columns here, words that occur to you you might like to work, and details you see or might like to add. And then here are your instructions. You've studied a photo and come up with some ideas that go along with it. Now you need to do a little creative writing and come up with the problem that the character or characters in the photos are dealing with. You don't need to write the whole story, just the exposition. That would be the part on the plot line from the very beginning, the introduction, all the way up to the climax. And so who is this character? And what do we know about them? And where are they? And what's their problem? Because every story that's ever been written really is about a character who's had a problem that they have to solve. And that's why we love literature, by the way, because we like to be entertained by watching other people solve their problems. It's common. Now, remember, you're going to lead us up to a point. So what I did is I just took the picture and I inserted it in my article or my Google Doc. And you can do the same thing. You use the plus sign if you're on an iPad, and you probably will have to download it first into your photos, and you can do that from the drive, and then you can just insert it from there. That's one way to do it. And if you don't put it in there, it's not the end of the world. I'm not grading the picture, I'm grading the writing. So here's my example. I looked at this picture and I see somebody walking down a dark hallway. I think maybe it's at a school, and I think maybe it's at the very end of the day, maybe after 5 o'clock. Maybe the only person there is the janitor. And this girl who's walking there, she forgot something in her locker. That's what I came up with. And so I wrote about it. And I'm just going to read it to you and share it with you so you get an idea. Margot walked down the long hallway, hearing the sound of her footsteps echo down and around, louder than they should have been. The last light of the setting sun was filtering through the doorways at the end of the hall, but the school lights were not turned on yet. The farther down the hall she got, the darker it became. Margot's thoughts were like butterflies flitting around her brain. All she could think about was getting to her locker, getting that history book she had foolishly forgotten as she ran off to track practice, and getting out of there. She didn't like being in the school alone at this time of day. She knew she wasn't truly alone, couldn't be alone. After all, the door was unlocked, and there must be a janitor cleaning somewhere, but she hadn't seen or heard him. Funny, she thought, that she, a senior, a track star and top student who wasn't afraid of anything normally, was creeped out by being here. And she thought, I'm in this hallway every day, 5 days a week. Why is it creeping me out now? She had heard the stories. This was an old school, a very old school. Her grandparents went there when they were young. So many people had passed back and forth through these halls. And she wondered if people left a little part of themselves in places they spent a lot of time in. Maybe this place was old enough to have ghosts. Stop thinking like that, she whispered out loud to herself. She quickened her pace and moved more quickly toward her door. The red light from the fire alarm glowed like a red eye at the end of the hall, right next to her locker. She would have had the bad luck to have a locker there. She stopped, withdrew her phone to use as a light, and clumsily fumbled the combination so quickly that she missed it the first time. Finally, the door clanged open and sent echoes reverberating in the cavernous darkness. She reached in to grab her history book. She had so much work to do, and tonight was going to be a long one, when she felt something else in there, something cold and sticky, something that shouldn't have been there, something. Now, notice I didn't end the story, because that's not what this assignment's about. This assignment is to lead me up to a point and then not end the story on purpose so that it's like a cliffhanger. And cliffhanger is one way that authors and movie makers create suspense. And you've seen them a million times, so this is your chance to create a cliffhanger. And I think that's all you need to do. I mean, it should be about this long. If I do a word count on this, I bet that's probably 300 words. We'll see. And let's go to my tools, word count. Okay, so it's 323 of 576. So about 300 words is what I need. And this is fun to write. So have a good time with it. And really, we only need to rough draft it. Oh, I forgot to do this. So it's probably about 350 words. Oh, well. Have a good time with it. And you don't have to pass it in yet. So all you have to do is write it. You have a week to do this. Okay. But in the meantime, just a reminder, what you need to worry about is you need to worry about Quizlet. I want you to be really good at those terms. I want you to be really good at commas and series. So do your IXL. Remember, we work on that for 20 minutes or 100, whichever comes first. You get 100 if you work for 20 minutes. And be looking at your Internet Campus this week, because I'll be entering a lot of grades that need to go in. So your grade's probably going to move and change around a little bit. So that's it. And this is Mr. Burby signing off. And I'll see you in class. I'll see you in the hall. I'll see you on the field trip. And I'll see you when I read your spooky beginnings, which I'll start doing very soon. So signing off.